Hello there, you're welcome to your program. Let's talk about it with Ochua Igbanoy. And today on the program, we shall be going into the educational sector. And the topic we'll be looking at today in the educational sector is the right age for university admission, enhancing academic readiness, and emotional maturity. We recall last year that the Ministry of Education set 16 years as the minimum age for admission into the university or even writing the qualifying examinations. That when this pronouncement was made, many people reacted to it. Some were in support of it. Others said that 16 is an appropriate age for students, a candidate, to get into the university, while others stipulated that a child at age 16 may lack emotional and social maturity required for admissions into the university. So before now, students gaining admissions into the universities were between 17 and 19. In our time, you might even see some 20 something years old still getting admission into the university. Now then, this were making them more matured before getting admitted into the university. But in recent times, we have seen students getting admitted at tender ages, some 14, 15, at most 16. And this trend is becoming so worrisome. Now let's examine some of the arguments for and against getting admission at 16 now. I'm not talking about 14. How can a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, I'm really not for that anyway. But let's look at a 16-year-old getting admission into the universities, the argument for and against. Now, some argued for argument for that those that are supporting getting admission into the university at the age 16, they said academic readiness. Some of the students, some of them, people said some of these students are gifted, even though they are 16, that they are academically gifted and they completed their educations earlier. So by then, because of this, they're saying they are qualified to gain admission. And they went further to argue that age does not always determine intelligence or learning ability. And then another point they raised was that it helps early career development. According to them, when a child graduates, let's take a 4-year course, and you get admitted into university at 16, and by 20 you graduate, you serve the nation for 1 year. At 21, you are ready to go into the labor market. They said it helps early career development. And then they also come up with the point that it aids exposure and growth. Is all the points they talked about that made them support age admission of a 16-year-old into the university. Now let's look at points, those that were against them, what they said, and that is where we'll come in and maybe give our own 1 or 2 points to buttress or to speak against what they are saying. Now, for those that are against admission into the university at 16 or an early age, they said the emotional and physical maturity is not there. That a 16-year-old is still growing, and the university life requires self-discipline. We all went to the university, we know what we experienced there. And that a 16-year-old child going into the university without anybody being a kind of guide with him or her might not be able to discipline him or herself when he or she comes face to face with vices on campus. So that point they raised was that social challenges, that a 16-year-old will struggle to fit him or herself into the older peers. When a 16-year-old finds him or herself in a room with 20, 19 years old roommates, when they start, they are in the universities, they are adults now, they start all these social vices that the 16-year-old might not be able to choose whether to join them or to stay away from such vices. And then they said this often leads to peer group influence. You get back, by the time the child gets back from school after the first semester, you see a lot of changes as parents, and you now start wondering what happened, because nobody was there and they are not matured enough to say no to such vices. And then they are also talking about independence and responsibilities. It said the university demands high level of personal responsibility. For example, managing time, finances, and freedom, like we said earlier on. So these are the points that these people against the admission of a 16-year-old are all bringing up. And they say 16-year-old might find itself, him or herself, overwhelmed without any strong support, without anybody telling him or her this is what to do. They might be overwhelmed and they won't know when they will fall to such um vices, social vices in school. And then we have the ethical and legal considerations. At age 16, students are often still minors. They raise concerns about consent, accommodation, and welfare. They said the university might also lack the systems tailored to protect underage students. You know, everybody is just there. We all went to the university. Nobody checks you, nobody tells you this is how far you go. Some students passed through university at age 16 and turned out better. But for some, it is not the same is not the case. So admission decisions must be based on not only academic performance, but also on emotional maturity, support systems, and individual readiness. So a flexible policy that considered both age and capability is very, very ideal. Government should just not just pronounce 16, but they should go beyond pronouncement of age 16, but also put in place a flexible policy that will consider both age and capability. This will be very, very ideal. The recommendations we have is that universities should allow conditional or special admission for 16-year-olds. They should be given conditions. Look at these children that are coming in, speak to them. I must tell you, like I said, is some 16-year-old, they think more matured and they speak boldly than some that are of age. So if this is done by the universities, they should have a one-on-one interview with these children, psych you off psychologically, physically, and then they'll deem you fit for admission. So this topic is an unending one. We still talk about it. We have other aspects we are bringing up that we'll be talking about. So we need your comments, we need your input. Please do talk to us on our social media handles. At TikTok, we have Angela Igbanoy, Ochoa Igbanoy, and at on Facebook, we have Angel Igbanoy. Please do reach out to us on our WhatsApp line 080-3409-7261. We are expecting your feedback to continue the discussion on this topic. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your regular host, Ochoa Igbanoy. See you next time.